What final words pass between a father and son when one of them is Jimmy Swaggart, a man whose voice once shook stadium rafters, whose tears once soaked every TV screen in America? Donnie Swaggart won't reveal that last whisper, but the silence it left behind was loud enough to draw mourners from 4 continents to Baton Rouge. They came on July 5, 2025, to watch a polished mahogany casket roll down the aisle of Family Worship Center, the church Jimmy built after turning rural tent revivals into a global broadcast empire. Some arrived in curiosity, others in gratitude, all hungry to see how a preacher who fell so publicly could be farewelled so passionately. Long before tabloids or live streams, Jimmy was the barefoot Louisiana boy who borrowed his cousin Jerry Lee Lewis's piano licks, but pointed every lyric toward heaven. By the mid-1980s, his fiery sermons and boogie-woogie hymns reached 3 million U.S. homes each weekend. Viewers mailed so many checks over $1 million weekly that accountants joked the postman deserved hazard pay. Jesus Saves wasn't just a slogan, it was a televised avalanche. Then 1988 happened. A motel room photograph, a trembling "I have sinned" confession, defrocking by his own denomination, donations plunging like a stone. Pundits bet the ministry would stay buried beneath the scandal. They underestimated his core message. Grace is for the fallen, not the flawless, Jimmy included. Instead of quitting, he pivoted. He sold off primetime slots, launched Sun Life Broadcasting Network, and preached to a camera in an empty sanctuary until fresh donors trickled back. Donnie took a seat beside him as co-host. Grandson Gabriel polished a younger cadence for a future generation. By 2024, Sun Life's signal bounced across more than 100 nations. The crowds were smaller, the applause softer, but every broadcast still ended the same: Jesus Christ is your answer. That answer carried him to his last Sunday. On Father's Day 2025, he felt the crushing clamp of a heart attack. Doctors stabilized him, but family saw the fire dimming. 2 weeks later, he slipped away at 90. Just days before a birthday crusade he'd insisted on planning himself. The ministry announced a public wake. Skeptics shrugged. Then license plates from Brazil, South Africa, and Scotland jammed the parking lot. Online, "Thank you, Brother Swaggart" trended within hours, proof that memory can outshout scandal. Inside the sanctuary, the service began without pomp, just the soft rise of "There is a river." Tears surfaced. Gabriel reached the pulpit first. "My pawpaw didn't chase applause," he told the packed house. "He chased souls, and he ran that race until his breath ran out." A roar answered. But the hush that followed Francis Swaggart's slow walk to the podium felt heavier than any cheer. 70 years of marriage leaned on the microphone. "He lived and died with his hands on the plow," she said. "I will miss him dearly, but I know he is home." The crowd rose as one, weeping and clapping in the same heartbeat. Letters from Nairobi, São Paulo, Belfast scrolled across giant screens. A South Korean pastor recalled sneaking into his parents' bedroom at 16 to watch a grainy Swaggart crusade on a black and white set. "That night changed my life," the letter read. "I serve the gospel today because your broadcast found me first." Even rival televangelists sent video tributes, admitting they had walked the satellite trail Jimmy blazed decades earlier. Music framed every memory. A choir poured harmonies into "Let Your Living Water Flow." Then a lone vocalist launched "I'll Never Be Lonely Again," a track Jimmy recorded when cassettes were king. Hands lifted not to mourn sin, but to celebrate second chances, the very theme that redeemed Jimmy's own ministry. Announcers slipped in news of a tribute concert later this month. Ticket proceeds will underwrite Sun Life's overseas missions, a last crusade funded by Melody. Only close relatives followed the hearse to a modest cemetery bordering the ministry grounds. Donnie offered a simple prayer as a trio hummed "I'll Fly Away." The family had asked for no flowers, only donations to global evangelism. "Bloom souls, not bouquets," Gabriel quipped earlier. Supporters obeyed. By dusk, the missions fund had surged past its first-day goal. Yes, critics still circle. They recite the scandal, the tears, the perceived hypocrisy. But outside the sanctuary, a gray-haired woman summed up why thousands stood in line anyway. "Brother Jimmy said Jesus could fix my mess, and he did. That's why I'm here." Call it blind loyalty or enduring mercy. Either way, it explains the standing room farewell. Sun Life will air a week-long retrospective, Jimmy Swaggart, A Life of the Cross. Family Worship Center has scheduled an open mic night so ordinary people can share how a single sermon or song changed their trajectory. Meanwhile, somewhere in a quiet editing bay, engineers polish Gabriel Swaggart's next live stream. In Baton Rouge, the camera never sleeps long. Jimmy's casket is closed, yet the echo of his gravel-rich "Jesus loves you" still ricochets across airwaves and earbuds. Love him or judge him, he proved one enduring lesson. A flawed voice preaching grace can keep preaching even after it falls silent. As Romans 1:16 thundered from the pulpit one last time, I am not ashamed of the gospel. The lights dimmed, not in finality but reset, ready for the next soul who might tune in, searching for hope that once found a barefoot boy in Louisiana and set him ablaze for all to see.